Hello! 18th century Japan. The country plunges into poverty because of the lack of male population. The Red Plague affects young men across the land, and only 1 in 5 survives the dreaded disease. Matriarchy is established, and a woman becomes shogun, with a harem of men of ideal physical attributes serving her. Mizuno, whose family is on the brink of poverty, is also sent there to serve. However, in the shogun's palace, Mizuno has to face something much more immoral than poverty and hunger. 1715. In an ancient Japanese village, lower-class women work in place of men, carrying hay bales, building houses, working as longshoremen in the harbors, and even pulling rickshaws. In the midst of all the hustle and bustle, a fragile girl from a noble family in impeccable traditional clothing hastily makes her way to a martial arts school. There, an intense bamboo sword fight between two opponents is in full swing. Ruthlessly attacking his opponent, Yunoshin playfully knocks the sword out of the hands of the defeated Mitamura-san. Unaware of his fatigue, the swordsman, obsessed with combat, challenges the next opponent to a fight, but no one else has the strength to oppose him. And Nobu, who brings the master lunch, spares the exhausted student from further torment. The young boy eats his rice balls with delight, listening to his childhood friend's caring comments that he shouldn't work so hard. Instead of gratitude, the arrogant fencing master asks the girl not to come to him anymore. Offended by this response to her display of sincere affection, Nobu hastily gets up and runs away without turning around, leaving the innocent poor man alone. Yunoshin spends his nights in the slums with poor women who have lost their husbands and sons to the plague. He gives them the opportunity to become pregnant and does so for free, stubbornly refusing to accept the coins that are slipped to him every time. Upon returning home in the early morning, Yunoshin eats rice with his family. The imperious mother proudly informs her son that he has received a good proposal to marry the daughter of a wealthy nobleman in charge of the temple and shrine affairs. The bride-to-be considers her spouse's appearance to be very important, and she is ready to turn a blind eye to his family's poverty. At this, 19-year-old Yunoshin cheekily replies to his mother that the proposal does not interest him, and suggests that she instead find a groom for his sister. The irritated woman insists, and to smooth over the conflict, Yunoshin sincerely thanks her for never selling him for money as a breeding stallion, no matter how hard it was, unlike the parents of other young men. And to repay his family, Yunoshin promises. Absorbed by his thoughts of how to fulfill his promise, Yunoshin invites his childhood friend Nobu for a walk. The friends talk about Yunoshin's nighttime adventures. The girl jealously notices that the guy is very popular with the local women. However, the young lover hero excuses himself by saying that he does it for free, and only because women turn to him themselves for a chance to get pregnant. Nobu timidly hints that she herself would like to ask for a night with him. However, they both realize that because of their entirely different social status, that is impossible. So rejecting the girl's sympathy, Yunoshin just smugly laughs at his friend. Upset and humiliated by his pathetic remarks, Nobu hurries away again, leaving the impolite poor guy alone. However, this quarrel helps Yunoshin figure out what to do next, and the boy shows up at home with a decisive announcement. He intends to serve at Oku, the harem of the shogun at the palace, where he will have to stay for life. Determined, Yunoshin explains that he will receive a good salary and spare his poor parents one hungry mouth. Mother and father humbly accept their offspring's unexpected decision. Nobu, who has been in love with him, rushes to see him one last time, but her shoe rips off on the stone path. She cries bitterly in despair and is still on the ground when her beloved suddenly appears in front of her. Seeing his changed appearance, Nobu realizes with regret that he is indeed leaving to serve at Oku. Unable to accept the inevitable circumstances, the girl throws a tantrum, to which Yunoshin finally shows her his true feelings for the first time and tenderly kisses her goodbye. At Oku Palace, Yunoshin is greeted by bedroom servant Matsushima. The friendly man accepts him into service and tells him in detail how the servant hierarchy works. Matsushima also urges the newcomer to work hard so that one day he may appear before the mistress, whose domain they are now visiting. The bedroom servant shows Yunoshin the other servants and their occupations. The tailors who sew all the garments in Oku, the servants in charge of cleaning, and those who work in the kitchen. Yunoshin is surprised to see that the palace is full of men, and while there, one can forget that the country is woefully short of them. Their journey through the palace ends in the Chamber of Dignitaries, where Yunoshin will live. At the entrance, Matsushima bows respectfully to a respectable-looking man in a gray kimono. He tells them that it is Fujinami-sama, the greatest man in Oku, who controls everything that happens in the harem, despite the fact that the official rank of chief leader belongs to another man. After finishing the tour, Matsushima gives Yunoshin one last important instruction. And the punishment for breaking this rule is cruel: death. Matsushima also warns Mizuno that from now on, he will only be addressed by his last name. Next, the newcomer heads off to meet the other servants of his rank. A group of unceremonious men immediately start mocking the newcomer because of his hairstyle and rude village kimono. Only the quiet Sugishita welcomes him hospitably, gives him work clothes, and helps him get to his daily duties: dusting, scenting the master's suit, and mopping the floors. Encouraged by such simple activities, Mizuno tells Sugishita that he worked much harder in his ordinary life, except that he didn't sell his body, of course. Having completed their daily duties, the workers go to lunch, where one of the servants decides to frame Mizuno and asks him to take rice to Mr. Matsushima's room. Fulfilling the fake assignment, Mizuno finds two men cuddling in the room and retreats embarrassed when he learns that lunch has long since been delivered to Matsushima's chambers. On his way back, he is kicked in the back by the pranksters, which causes him to fall, knocking down all the dishes. But the worst is yet to come. After the night patrol passes their room, the sleepy young man is held in his bed by 3 other servants, clearly hinting for the man to perform his night duties now. However, Mizuno manages to get away from them and scare off his enemies once and for all. The next morning, Sugishita discusses the night's incident with Mizuno. He reveals to the man that this is the way things are in Oku, and he himself has slept with men many times. And if you become friends with the manager or the bedroom servant, you can also be promoted. Stunned by this news, Mizuno tells his comrade that outside the palace, women suffer from a shortage of men and an inability to become pregnant. While cleaning the grounds, Mizuno hears the familiar sounds of bamboo sword fencing. Peeking at the practice, he enthusiastically recalls his past by swinging a road broom. He is caught doing so by the great Fujinami-sama, who praises his fine posture with a benevolent smile and invites him to come to class and fight with some of the students. His opponent is Tsuruoka, whom Mizuno had previously caught in Matsushima's room. The attendees believe that the newcomer has no chance, but his former ardor and excitement quickly rekindle and help Mizuno easily defeat the handsome adversary. Despite his quick victory, the young man humbly bows to Tsuruoka and shows respect by admiring his swordsmanship and offering him a handshake. Brushing aside Mizuno's friendly intentions, the smug Tsuruoka tells him not to get cocky and fearlessly declares to all the gentlemen present that swordsmanship in Oku is not as important as a pretty face and perfect manners. And in this, he is clearly far superior to the novice. By saying these words, Tsuruoka ruins his life in Oku forever. Matsushima won't let him near him anymore. The humble Mizuno, on the other hand, becomes very popular the next morning as rumors of his victory in the duel quickly spread throughout the palace. In a bid to disprove the rumors and restore his dignity, the defeated Tsuruoka challenges Mizuno to a duel again, waiting for him to show up at the training room at night. Only this time, the handsome man offers to fight with a combat weapon, but he is again defeated by Mizuno, who this time does not even draw his sword from its sheath. Unable to bear the doubled shame, Tsuruoka decides to commit harakiri, and seeing the suffering of his foe, Mizuno generously puts him out of his misery. As time passed and winter came to Japan, a real tragedy struck over Oku, as the 7th shogun, Tokugawa Ietsugu, passed away due to illness. The successor is Lady Yoshimune of Ki Province, who immediately sets out for her new domain. With her first orders, the calculating Yoshimune strips Manabe Akifusa, who had prepared a senselessly expensive new outfit for the shogun during the country's severe economic crisis, of her position as secret advisor. Ignoring her duties to visit the harem in Oku, the new ruler zealously immerses herself in work, studying the city and the lives of its inhabitants on her own. Yoshimune finds the situation extremely distressing as she watches young men, stricken with disease, die in the arms of their mothers. Moreover, even in their terrible condition, many men are forced to sell their bodies to women who are trying to become pregnant. Upon her return to the palace, Yoshimune is confronted by Oka's manager, Tasaduk, who insists that the shogun fulfill her duties and visit the harem. At the same time, Mizuno is suddenly promoted to the rank of bedroom servant by Fujinami-sama himself, which means that he is now worthy of the lady's gaze. The other servants henceforth respectfully bow before him, and the amiable Sugishita is appointed his personal servant. To perform his new duties at the palace, Mizuno first orders a black ceremonial suit from a tailor and gets to know the other bedroom servants, who welcome him into their company. The long-awaited day of the shogun's morning audience arrives at the palace. The servants of the mistress's bedroom gather in the hall with excitement, wearing their best costumes that resemble enormous wings with colored plumage. Each man wants to stand out and attract the mistress's attention, and only Mizuno appears in black. Fujinami-sama tells him the rules. If mistress asks for one's name, it means she is choosing a man to perform his duties in the bedroom. The ringing bells announce the shogun's arrival for her morning audience. The bedroom servants hastily take their seats, and Yoshimune appears in the swinging doorway, not at all thrilled with what she sees.
なんとまあ、バカバカしいほど着飾った男どもだ。
During the procession through the hall, the unforeseen happens. The great Fujinami-sama himself accidentally steps on the floor of her dress. She stumbles and quickly recovers to continue walking, but hears someone laughing. Yoshimune looks questioningly at those present, waiting to find out which of them has not held back. But the guilty coward does not confess, and Mizuno, covering for his neighbor, takes the blame. Calling Mizuno to answer for what he did, the mistress asks him to raise his head and freezes, fascinated by his beautiful face. Instead of punishing the insolent servant, the shogun asks his name. During the tea ceremony after the audience, Yoshimune dreamily and passionately tells her new advisor that she has a crush on one of the men. And it turns out that Mizuno must pay for it with his life. According to Oku code, the first man the mistress likes is appointed her secret admirer and spends the first night with her, after which he is executed by decapitation. Fujinami-sama promises the young man that he will not reveal the real cause of the boy's death to his family, and that he himself will personally take care of the monetary compensation that will lift his family out of poverty. After hearing this, Mizuno bows and meekly accepts his fate. Later, he discusses what happened with Sugishita, who believes that this inhumane sacrifice was planned in advance. Fujinami-sama intentionally promoted Mizuno to bedroom servant in order to make him the secret admirer. Otherwise, one of the current servants would be executed instead, and they are all the sons from rich noble families that Fujinami-sama receives money from. At the same time, the self-content Matsushima and Fujinami-sama, who have indeed pulled off a ruthless plan, discuss the bright prospect of Matsushima becoming the father of Shogun's heir. Alone the night before his execution, Mizuno remembers his beloved Onobu and regrets that he never sincerely confessed his feelings for her. After bidding her farewell in his thoughts, the young man sets out unhesitatingly to prepare to fulfill his duties. Sugishita helps his master prepare by washing his back, combing his hair, and applying makeup. Afterwards, the eunuch escorts Mizuno to his mistress's quarters, where Yoshimune appears before him and openly repents and apologizes to Mizuno for condemning him to such a bitter fate, as she was unaware of the Oku sacrificial tradition. And to ease his despair, the mistress agrees to the servant's request and allows him to address her by the name Onobu that night. The next morning, Mizuno is led to the inevitable execution, and a samurai draws his sword over the head of the fearless young man, who kneels obediently. Yunoshin's family is informed of their son's untimely death and his dignified service during his lifetime. Onobu also learns about what happened. She arrives at her lover's grave with flowers and rice balls, just like she did before, barely able to hold back her tears at the gravestone. Onobu vows to live on. Yet she does not expect that Yunoshin himself will show up unharmed for the meal. Only now he is a merchant named Shinkichi, and he finally offers Onobu to become a good companion for her. Shogun Yoshimune spared the young man's life then in the palace, and it was only his name that died. And at the next audience, where all the men look like ghosts of Mizuno in identical black robes, Lady Yoshimune announces her decision to release the men from service, and orders them to leave Oku during the day so that their places could be taken by men who had far less prospects of a successful marriage than the children of wealthy samurai families. As always, you can find the name of the movie in the description of the video. And let us know in the comments if you kept the hope that our hero would stay alive until the very end, or if his survival came as a surprise. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next awesome retelling.